than that property boundary has. Picture in your mind how high a 40-inch orange fence is. It ain't any higher than the stone wall that's already there, and the trash is still coming over it. We need something higher than a little orange fence. And I don't want to have trash every single event and have them come on my property every single event and pick it back up. That's like ridiculous.
I'd appreciate if you would step
All right,
back from the table.
No,
I think that
let's-
you're being a little offensive there.
Is there anything, there isn't anything that we can really do to alleviate this.
He's
I don't-
filed the police report through the chair. He's filed the police report and everything. It's up to the police if they want to act on it or not, or whatever. You're going to have, even in town and other places where there's a business and their debris, the wind catches it and blows bags across the street, across Masonic Home Road over to individuals' homes.
Right, we have McDonald's bags on the roads,
On Masonic Home Road even. Okay,
Main Street
from
has
Route
one
20. Right, I mean, it's, people are pigs sometimes, okay? And I truly believe that, and I've seen enough of it. They are pigs.
10,000 people this close to my boundary line running, you're gonna get it. You just can't help it. I don't want 10,000 people running down my boundary line. The last time I was here, I asked you folks, how many people are in a high-capacity event? What's up? A lot of people are gonna come, how many would that be? You answered 1,000, 2,000. I go to a selectmen's meeting to find out there's gonna be 9,000 estimated people coming, which ended up being 10,000 according to the Board of Health.
We get information as it comes along and things change. Again, we've
Yeah,
been
but that's a
dealing
heck
with
of a
this.
change in a few weeks.
We've been dealing with this for years, and then the lawyers stepped in, and the lawyers handed us this, and we're doing what the lawyers told us to do. I can't.
Well, a good fence makes good neighbors,
So we're-
according to Mr. Russell. And a barbed wire fence isn't much of a fence to keep people out. If that's not what they're putting around solar farms to keep people out, that's not what they should be putting around these 10,000 people events to keep people out.
Where on the site plan is your property? So, that's right.
This blue line is where the race run, and this is my property on this side in the red.
So that was during the Tough Mudder was the
Yes,
midget problem.
that's a long, this distance is almost a mile.
And the track itself, oh, sorry. So, okay. So it's not near the track itself, though, or?
And if you want, that's from their website, Tough Mudders, that's where I got the information from.
That's that.
So these are just these running events
your
where
parcel
people
right
happen to
down
be
there?
running
Right.
the long distance to the property.
Yes.
This is my property here, you track, this is where their finish line was, right along here.
So this.
So this clearing
Yeah.
right there is this clearing right here.
Okay.
Just to be clear on the site plan, and then, Mr. Cisco's property. That shows larger in relation to everything that we've been reviewing. This parcel over here.
It actually starts over here, goes all the way
Yeah, it does.
along, all the way over to there.
But
So most of that entire.
For the,
side.
okay. So is there any demarcation between this property here?
A stone wall, that's
Just
all
it's
there is.
just a wall along the track area?
And
Yeah.
the photos of the barbed wire fence.
Okay, that goes
are
along that.
along here
That's
where
it.
it has the closest catch.
And that's not stopping trash, and I haven't seen the barbed wire fence, but I don't expect it to be any higher than the wall is, and people are stepping right over the wall. And this was all predicted before the race, when I came to the last meeting, that all these concerns would happen, and they did.
I suppose the board could require that there be a weekly monitoring of trash, and someone walk the property line, pick up the trash that's happened to blown over the line.
Right, but the problem is that
It's gonna happen
he doesn't
repeatedly.
want,
But it has-
he
right,
doesn't
it has
want,
to be
he doesn't
at
want
every
508
event.
employees over
Yeah,
over
he
the-
doesn't, he won't let them come onto his
And pick up the
property to pick
trash.
up the trash that's on his property.
That's what the issue is.
That's-
And you're more than, well, you will ensure that the trash is, will you let them go and pick the trash the next day up?
Well, I don't know, you were gonna come on, maybe it was you, was gonna come on Earth Day and with a group and pick it up.
Oh, I didn't say I was gonna come. People were gonna. I already.
You were gonna
my neighbor-
organize it.
my
Totally
property,
unacceptable.
my
We would
property
be more
puts
than
from 20,
willing
and there's no
to do
fence
that
there either, and I
if
walked
we're
that
allowed
on
to
our
do
day.
that. Naturally, like I was getting into, and this is why we're fortunate enough to have a Board of Health that does deal with issues of this.
They did
subject
nothing,
matter.
they never
Well,
cited
they-
anybody.
They deal with the subject matter.
Okay,
and
so
didn't
let
deal
me,
with
let me
that.
just, let me just like cut this off. When there's an event, you contact Russ if there's trash
I'm
and
not
give
talking
him,
with Russ.
and give
I'll
him.
contact you if it's
That's fine. I will contact you. If there's trash, and the next day you'll make sure that's picked up. So we just needed somebody that he can walk over to the property.
I need
His
certificates
staff.
of insurance for everybody gonna be over there.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Both liability and workman's comp.
Naturally.
Okay, so that's what will happen.
I don't want him there at all.
Okay, so one of your employees, you'll go, and I just saw this problem, and then, so that's in the minutes.
I love the solution.
And you guys will communicate, even if it's through me, because I love to get like 47 emails a day, and we'll make it happen.
Now, what are you gonna do about the fence? Keeping people out?
We
You
can't-
something
I don't
about
think we
wire,
can, I don't think we
orange
can,
fencing?
I think the expense of putting up a fence during that much property line
No,
would be
no.
absolutely like not
I mean,
happening.
I didn't say the whole property line. I didn't say
I
it.
mean, I think it actually kind of
I want the
stop the
fence.
wildlife from going through.
That's not
and-
stopping
and-
nothing, because most of it won't have a fence. I want just the fence separating our properties for as far as 508 is cleared up to my property line. If they didn't clear up to my property line, I probably don't need a fence there.
I don't
There's-
think-
There's areas over further on this side that they haven't, there's wetlands and stuff, there's plenty of buffer there. I'm concerned about all of this here.
I just don't think that we can make them at a fence at this point. I feel like the board's not with me on this, so, so that's the agreement, so.
Do you have a seat,
Russ
please?
will-
And
yes, Russ will-
could we just discuss this among us? We're
So-
not talking about anything, we
Russ
want
will
to talk
pick up-
among ourselves.
The Russ will pick up the trash, and however it works, honestly, email me.
I
Even
don't
if
do
I'm not
emails,
sharing anymore,
so-
I will give you my email, and, I'll even get involved. Or you can email anybody on this board and we'll
I
contact
don't do
them.
emails.
I'll give you my cell phone number. And I'll make sure that you guys communicate so you can get that trash picked up. I don't think a fence is necessary. I think at
Trash
this
is only
point.
I don't think a fence along the whole piece of property is necessary, but I do question this area here where this commercial property is cleared right up to the boundary. Now, most commercial businesses have a buffer. If there's no buffer between the parking area or the track area up here, from here to here, a fence during that property, because that's gonna be high usage area. This is just something up here that uses occasionally and wouldn't see.
This last Mudder event, the concession stands weren't up here, the finish line was. In other events, when they had concession stands up there, there was stuff blowing all the
Yeah, I
time.
mean, but that's-
We had health nuts running. People that are probably more concerned with the environment, less likely to dump trash, and the trash generated was further away. So I didn't get as much trash on this event as I would expect on others.
Russ, what's the scale on this?
It should be noted in the bottom.
None.
What is the distance from here to here? Just the spot distance.
It's about, from here
Yep.
to here is about 900 feet.
Okay.
And
So,
this is
and
his
just-
property right here?
Just so you know, this property here, all this property right here, Mr. Cisco clear cut all the way back to here. This is all clear cut. If anyone was concerned about keeping a private buffer between property lines.
All right, this is,
Yeah.
everybody sit.
I'm clear cutting for
My-
the beef
Here's
cow.
the problem, we're
I don't know
just,
what that is.
I'm just done with this conversation. I don't think we're gonna get, I don't think anybody's gonna be happy at the end of this conversation. So if there's trash, 774, here's my number, call me and I will call Russ. I don't even have your number, but well, I'll make sure I get it. Jane has it. Just to get the trash picked up. That's my cell phone number. See how much I love this town?
Hours that I could call you?
Call me anytime you wanna call me. And is there any other questions that any other?
Not only did I want a fence, I wanted a little buffer, maybe some bushes planted to stop the trash. A chain link fence with some bushes, I think would
I just
stop
can't,
it.
I mean, you can plant them on your side.
Yes.
Why should I have to plant bushes to stop his trash?
Just because it's his property and we've already gone through all of
Okay.
these.
We'll leave the trash issue alone. What are we gonna do about people going over the boundary line, defecating on my
That's
property?
a
That's the
legal thing,
police.
call the police.
I did.
Put up-
You know-
put up-
You know what become
Put
of
up
it?
a
Nothing.
camera, put up a
I do,
camera.
I took a picture, you have a picture of
Put
it.
up a video camera and then give all that footage, that is way beyond us.
Okay,
As the
when I
planning
brought
board, way
that
beyond
picture
us.
to the Board of Health, Jim wouldn't even look at it, wouldn't even let me take it out of the package.
See how nice
He
we
was
are?
way too sensitive to see that picture.
I think that's a police matter. I think
I talked to
trespassing
the
is
chief
a
of
police
police.
matter. I think, do the video cameras and give them the video they have. It's trespassing.
I have a
Police matter.
picture, I gave it to the police, I
Take it
gave
up
it to
with
the
the
Board of
police.
Health.
That's not-
You know what I
we-
got from it? Zip.
But I can't do it. I mean, that's a police matter.
That's way
So
beyond
can
our
you do
control.
something to
No.
make them
I
stop
can't do
going over
anything.
by means of a fence?
Our board,
No.
it's totally off. I mean, we have to be very careful. Our board each has a role, and that's not our role. Our
Okay.
role is to, today, is to deal with the legal signed agreement and get this cleared up. Is there any other discussion? Amy?
Yes.
Is this-
There was people walking on Brookfield Road going back and forth to the parking.
And that's the police matter again, not.
Was anybody cited for it?
We don't know.
We
That's,
are only here to discuss the site plan itself, unless it has in particular to do with the site
No,
plan.
they
The
weren't.
police, the police are very involved in these events.
When it was pointed out to them physically by my wife, they said, oh, we didn't even know. They didn't even speak to me.
And we have an email in response from the police department that
Literally,
is.
There's
No,
a
they
comment
have
on
it.
that, there's a comment on that. You
It was sent
maybe
to
you can
him.
read that.
This was sent to him, isn't that?
Oh, that's right.
Oh, no, it's his one.
Yep,
Yeah,
so,
the police
so,
chief said you're free to walk on a public way.
yep.
Yeah, so.
Yes.
It was requested that they do something to prevent it, and they did, but if people wanna walk on the road, they
Can't stop.
can't stop.
So the restriction really didn't have any teeth at all.
It was-
Now, what about the rented four-wheelers that we have a video of Sunday morning driving up Brookfield
And the police
Road,
are looking into that.
unregistered, uninsured?
Yeah,
What about
police are looking
that?
into
Yeah, that's a police
And
matter,
I
and we
think Mr. Jennings
can't,
was
I mean,
talking.
technically, we can't blame 508 for people riding unregistered
Correct.
four-wheelers on the road. That's a police matter.
I get them on my road too.
Me too.
That's a Charlton thing, I think.
And I suppose the traffic is nothing too. It was backed all
Again,
the way up to
it's
North
that-
Sullivan Road. We had some.
The police get paid, there's plenty of details, that
Seven.
this.
Yeah, they're making a lot of
seven-
money on these details, so.
Again, not
Not site plan.
not site plans. And
Well,
I,
this whole event happened, all these things happened, trash, defecating, trespassing, buggies on the road, people walking to the parking lot, all that wasn't supposed to happen, all of it did, not a single sighting from the police on anyone.
We can't
I have
say.
nothing to say with the police's vision. I don't.
I would
don't
be
know.
expecting a fence, something in chain link, and I would be expecting some bushes in that open area. My clearing my side happened before 508, and it's for beef cows, for a pasture.
All right, so I'm done, this conversation, we're just getting
Okay.
way off subject. If you cleared yours, he cleared
I don't know what it
his,
is.
it's just a matter of dueling neighbors here. I'm not in the.
You tell me 1 to 2,000, and then 10,000 show up 2 weeks later, and it's like
I only
nothing.
can respond to, when I have the answers, when I respond, if the answer changes, then the answer changes. I only know what I know.
Okay, now what about noise? You wanna revisit that a little bit?
No.
No,
Cover
we're,
No, okay.
Anybody else?
Amy Stanley, Sydney Circle. I'm gonna see if you guys can add this into the records. I emailed before your last hearing and asked a bunch of questions. So comments in red are my response. I had a couple more questions, but many of those are already answered tonight. Okay, so don't worry about that. I just wanted to enter it into record. And then I believe somebody did respond and gave me all the answers.
Was
One
that
question that I'm.
Jane did some, I
Okay,
did some.
thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, somebody did, put that from the email me back. One big question I have is, what are the set hours of operation? The days, the seasons, the hours?
Russ, can you please answer that for us?
I believe is it 8 days or on
Is it in the plan?
It's on the plan, I can't remember exactly where, but it is on the plan.
So the planning board in the site plan approval, they issued August 13, 2015, item 27, incorporated the schedule of operations as April 1st to October 31st, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. The planning board may incorporate these conditions of August 13 site plan approval by reference, and or change as they see fit. The planning board must put reasonable conditions on the amended site plan approval. What I'd strongly like to recommend is the planning board needs to adopt these scheduled hours of operation, which was April 1st to October 31st, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Considering they want to do snowmobiling, I'm guessing that they're opening it up year-round.
So that has changed.
That is
So these
changed.
are the events really between April 1 and October, the big Mutter events, and then the really the lower impact activities would be, I'm suspecting that there won't be gigantic Mutter races or motocross events in the middle of December.
No, the ground's frozen.
So the October through April is primarily snowmobiling. Is there any, cross-country skiing and things like that? It just, I think the weather dictates
Absolutely,
that.
the activities.
What do we have for the hours of operation that we have? We have 8 to 8.
I haven't found it yet on the plan.
It's in the order of conditions, it's one of the conditions.
Okay, it may not be on the plans, but
Then it's not in the plans?
I believe there is a note on the plans.
But I know that in the conditions, we had that in the original set, so we'll make sure that that's in there. And these are really the high impact ones, because you won't notice probably snowmobilers or cross-country skiers.
Can you consider eliminating the daylight hours only during the seasons when it starts before 8 p.m.? For the September, October, April, May.
I believe 8 to 8 was in the conditions.
8 to 8 was in the condition.
You can't alter that now.
You can't alter that.
8 to 8 was the agreed upon by council.
So they won't have overnight events like we, that started at about the time, but, so the hours are 8 to 8.
And there's no campground right now or anything like that, so right now.
This time.
And if there is, it'll come back in front of us if they're gonna add, correct, campground? If
Well,
they were gonna
campground's
add-
actually by right.
By right,
By
so
rights, yeah,
that would be a
that's by
cart
rights. That doesn't
thing.
come back to
That's
us.
not an event, that's a by right, so
Well,
it's
that's,
correct.
that's not part
That
of
would be
the
additional
plan,
step on
it's not a
approval.
recreational facility
No.
that's gained for profit, so there is no camping as part of this plan.
There's no camping?
That
Even though
was-
it's an allowed
There's
right
no
now?
campground as part of this plan.
That was part of the.
But it's a by right of the zone, isn't it?
It's a by right use in that zone.
It is, correct.
So they don't need
Is
to
it?
come to
I mean,
us.
Yeah.
Correct.
It is.
It would just be,
Okay.
it would be a,
It's a board health.
So yes.
so Amy, the answer to the question is there will not be overnights, and if there is, if it turns into a campground, then it will be brought to the, Board of Health and.
Unless it was covered under a special permit by the board of selectmen, that could be another scenario.
So they changed it, so it's not April to October.
Correct.
It's the whole year. That's a bit confusing, because that was part of the agreement, the approval. You guys answered a lot of the questions for noise. I had a question, number 2 that I have on my list there, it says, what is the maximum number of vehicles allowed? What I wanted to know was, I meant to ask how many vehicles allowed in an event, you know, hundreds or flags,
I don't,
is there anything?
is that in the agreement? I don't think, I think that is the police and whatever, whatever,
Well, it's limited by parking, but there could be turnover during the day, depending on how long the event lasts.
Are we gonna have that stationary area where they're supposed to test all the vehicles that go in on the track? Is that on the plan there?
That was part of the testing for the mock race.
The sound test required that as the first step of the testing. It's not something to continue indefinitely.
But I believe it was,
It was misconstrued as by some public opinion to be a permanent fixture, along with continuous testing. And that wasn't the case per the decision.
and yeah, in the sign agreement, that isn't in the sign agreement. I mean, now, everything's modified due to the new sign agreement. So we're kind of in a little bit of a different situation, if that makes sense.
so I was just, so they don't have to have that sound booth that was required. So everything that was on that isn't quite required anymore.
It was never a condition either on the,
I don't recall.
I don't remember
think so.
that ever being part of it.
As long as they stay under the
Exactly.
noise.
Yeah, stay under the noise,
Okay.
at 10 decibels.
Magic number.
So I think you answered all my questions. And I gave you a copy.
Yes, we have it on.
So those are all the questions I had asked and the responses that you had given me back. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just ask a few questions?
And
What is the
name-
ambient, my name is Dawn Petnelli, I live on 293 North Sturbridge Road. Please tell me, with the sound, you said that the sound passed, it didn't actually, it was a farce. What is the ambient noise level? Because you can't go 10 decibels above it. What is the ambient noise level? Tell me. I have that report, it is not written in there.
Because it's not,
If I could address that.
So you have to, I think this has to be in the order of conditions. What is the ambient sound level?
That's
So then we
we're not
know.
sound
State
engineers,
correct.
we're not sound engineers, and this, it was determined by the engineering.
No, it wasn't, it's not in their report. We could send you copies of the report, it's never been listed. What is
It
it?
is,
Tell me.
it's different for every neighborhood.
So
because
tell us,
there's-
I wanna see a map with all those noise
You
levels.
can most certainly get that now. I believe it's actually still available online even. And it's part of the information that was submitted to the board by our sound consultants. It was reviewed by the town's sound consultant. And background ambient was established for every
It's
neighborhood,
not,
whether
it's not.
whether
I'll
it's-
find you my form.
I don't interrupt you, and I appreciate that you would allow me the same respect. Is that too much? I'm trying to answer
No,
your
go on,
question.
go on.
So, every neighborhood, Sydney Circle, has a certain level. Sullivan Road has a certain level. Even over in Sturbridge, right on the line, has a certain level. There's about, I think there's 8 or 10 different locations. North Sturbridge might be one. I can't remember the specific locations offhand, but there's a map, and it shows the little block, and it shows all the levels. And if you guys get located, most certainly forward you a copy of that. So, and that's the key that Jim Philbrook would use to determine the 10 dB over.
That was done by the town son, or the town engineer.
It was done by, Russ's engineer did it, and then
Yes.
and then our engineer reviewed it
Okay.
to determine if the calculations were correct.
Because in the auditorium, many years ago, there was a huge discussion about it, and both of the sound engineers had their maps out, and we got to see on each one.
We did the study twice. Once was done in the wintertime, and everyone said, oh, the snow's affecting it, and we need to redo it. So we redid it again in the spring and redetermined the numbers. So,
Thank you.
And also, can we see a copy of the settlement? Is it on the website?
I believe it's on the town of Charlton website, or
Yeah.
it was at one
It was,
point.
yeah.
That's where I saw it.
And is there gonna be a new order of conditions that we can review?
I think it's
We don't
the,
order
really
conditions.
the,
There'll be a decision, but we don't normally put it on the website. But you can get a copy of it.
but it's a public information. Mhm.
All right, thank you.
Is there any more questions? I'd like to close this. All
I
right, so,
just have one other question, if I may. We still have the restriction for not using Lad Road, only for emergency access. So that will remain, I believe, right, unless you intend to ever improve Von Sawmill Road to get a connection.
Well, I
out.
believe the way it was written in the decision was that, and
It's not written.
it's not written in the decision, or it's not written in the settlement agreement.
Correct.
It's on the plan, I believe.
Well, on the plan, it specifically says emergency exit.
Yes, right.
There's no emergency exit only, and that was always the issue. What we had said during the planning board public hearings was, we've always used that road. We have other businesses that use that road. It's very, very difficult to be able to determine what traffic is coming from where. And if a car comes down on Sawmill Road, onto Lad Road, which is not even in Charlton, someone can say, hey, that's coming from 508, and maybe it's coming from one of the other businesses. This was part of the original discussion. The only way emergency exit got written on the plans was, a neighbor from Sturbridge questioned whether or not the road was able to support emergency vehicles coming onto on Sawmill Road from the direction of Lad Road. Therefore, your board asked Mike Andre from Graves to go out and review whether or not that road could handle emergency traffic and emergency vehicles. At that point in time, he said, fine, you can use it as an emergency exit. At that point in time, emergency exit was written on the plan. There was never a discussion of you can't use Lad Road. And in fact, at many a meeting, I have discussed it with everyone. I discussed it with both the chiefs of police, being Sturbridge and Charlton. And I said, if anyone can present the document to me today that says, here's a document that says you can't use Lad Road, these reasons stated on here, I won't use it. And again, at this point in time, I would challenge your board the same exact thing. A document that says you can't use Lad Road because of X. And that's where the emergency exit discussion comes from. Now,
from the very
naturally,
beginning, we've never allowed the use of that road. So, we've gotten this far. Do we wanna go any further? Let's keep it emergency. If somebody goes down that road, it's not, that's not 508, it's not your fault. It is what it is, but it's still.
So, emergency access, emergency exit, or only for emergency vehicles?
It says emergency exit. So if there's an emergency, then
Well, I think if there's an emergency, you can use any road you want. But for emergency vehicle use only, I think is the
That's
way it should be
different
worded than emergency use. If it's an emergency, please use it.
well, I think
But-
part of the discussion is also what came into, as of late, the use of Lad Road on event days. And that was the point of contention because of the amount of traffic going out now. Here again, we have the same situation. Do we run 1,000 people by 2 houses on Lad Road? Or do we run 1,000 people by 200 houses on Brookfield Road? And that was part of why it makes sense to use Lad Road. But we always maintained our right to use Lad Road and Von Sawmill Road because there's other properties off of there. And we can't be getting involved in that. He said, she said, that car came from here, that car came from there. So on event days, we said, we won't use it, just to avoid confusion and avoid the problems coming to the town hall. We said, we'll just solve the problem, we won't use it. And that's what we did for the past couple events. But again, you go down that same old situation of, we don't want to be nice and give up our rights, because that's a town road. And
Well,
why can't we
actually,
use
it's
it?
not a town road, that was discontinued, Von Sawmill Road
Bon Sawmill Road
Was
has
discontinued.
never been discontinued. Lad Road, the portion of Lad Road that goes from Lad Road to Bon Sawmill Road in Sturbridge has been discontinued.
Well,
You're
there's
absolutely
actually,
correct with
we have a town meeting record from 1850-something that said Bon Sawmill Road was discontinued in Charlton.
I would love to see a copy of that, because I have a copy of the town meeting from the 70s, where Bon Sawmill Road discontinuation was on the agenda. It was brought before the town, and it was postponed indefinitely because they didn't have the correct information to follow through with the warrant article. So,
Do we want to postpone this thing again and research that, or do we want to keep it emergency use only and get this approved and done with?
What I would do is do it, approve it as such tonight, pending, unless we get new information on Bon Sawmill Road. If he's right and we're wrong, then we can revisit that portion of it. But let's get this moving. I mean,
We've looked at this, we've reviewed these
Correct.
plans, we've
It's been years.
kept it emergency use. I mean, to change something like that, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, if our chief of police or our offices think that there is some sort of a risk by not dividing up traffic and using that road,
Can we
I
say?
feel more comfortable with that, but I don't want to change something that we've been, for years, it's been on the plan to change something like that now. It kind of, I don't know, what is the?
So the wording, just question the wording of emergency use only, what does that mean? So if it's stated you can't use it for vehicle traffic on event days, for event traffic, only to be used for emergency vehicle traffic on event days, something like that?
It's not
Does that make
defined,
sense?
it's not defined like that.
And if we defined it like that, for emergency vehicle traffic on event days only, that would keep the traffic
Yes.
off that road, and it would still allow them
Yeah,
use
I would
on
agree.
non-event days to
Exactly.
exit and enter into the property.
and for the safety, if they're having 10,000 people and Brookfield is so backed up, I think for the safety of the people at the event, it would be good to allow that.
I'm not sure I agree with that. I
Yeah,
think
he
you're
said
opening-
exactly.
you're
He said
opening
exactly.
the door
I-
there. As-
I'm agreeing.
I think they're reasonable.
Yes. To avoid it.
I'm fine with the reasonable approach of on event days, that's
Emergency
That's
vehicles
reasonable
only on
because-
Yes,
event
that's
days.
what I mean.
The main issue is there are addresses on Bon Sawmill Road.
Yes.
And you can't say that those don't exist. I mean, we have a house on Bon Sawmill Road, they're in
Big
Bon
traffic.
Sawmill Road. It's on the taxes, it's house, my business partner lives there. So to say you can't use those roads, that's a tough situation. On event days, fine, we can send the traffic that way, that's taking care of what the neighbor was concerned about.
So,
We
what do you
would
think
leave it
about
at
this?
You know, as far as I know, it's a private road, so I'm not sure we want to encourage the public.
That's what I'm
to use
saying,
that
for
road.
emergency vehicles on
Correct.
event
I
days
think
only,
that's-
that would keep the traffic off of that
I would
road.
agree.
Yeah, I think that's okay.
You want to make a motion then, Bob?
He can't,
You
it's not,
can't.
yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Next week.
Well, do we need motions for all these, or?
Well, I think
we
that
just
would be
discuss?
a condition,
Well,
right?
you know-
That would
Part
be a
of the-
condition?
Yes, if you're.
Okay,
yeah.
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
Second.
That on
Favor?
event days only,
Aye.
it's emergency vehicles only.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I can get you the date and information on it, I do have it.
Yeah.
I have it, I can email it to you.
I think I have it too, but I'll look for it again.
I'm Warren Cisco from Charlton, Mass. Anyone that doesn't know that by now. Can you show me what Bon Sawmill Road starts and stops on this map?
No.
No?
It's not showing on here, is it?
Here's Lad Road, and then Bon Sawmill comes
This right here
in. It's called Bon Sawmill.
is Bon Sawmill Road.
Point.
Bon Sawmill Road goes right here, comes here, comes right down, on the mutual property line right here. Goes all the way down here, comes back around.
Bon Sawmill Road touches my property right there, and it's a town road.
Right here. Nope, right there. You know where the big rock is?
piece of ledge is, yeah.
So this is the only piece of property that you're really talking about is
There's a
here to
house,
here.
we have a house
Yeah,
right here.
yeah.
That's 30 Long Sawmill Road.
This is Long Sawmill Road right
That's our
here,
business.
touching my corner right here.
It moves right out.
You go down, you get to town road, so I have frontage on the town road.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the site plan as written. With that restriction.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh,
So I'm not getting a fence somehow. Thank you for your time. Thank you guys very much. You give it to the solar farms, but I can't even get a fence for that. Crossing the
It's
property.
the state regulations. We don't have much control over this stuff.
These can include that.
We have one, thanks, John, one extension.
Just for that section from here to here. But that's not all.
We're always going to be like,
I have an extension request. Dear Jane, per our conversation, OMA Group LLC is asking for an extension from the planning board for the storage facility located at 157 Worcester Road, Charlton, Mass. The extension request is to, they're asking for an extension to July 14th, 2019. Do I have a motion to?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Abstain.
So we have 3-2-3-0-1 vote.
Yep, that'll go right back.
Who voted against?
No, there was-
Oh, okay. Oh, they're saying they don't do it.
Yeah, I was thinking about that.
Don't make the extension.
Dear Charlton Planning Board, please withdraw the application for a car lot on 21 Worcester Road. This is for Pegasus Motors. They had asked to increase the size of their property, and they're just asking to withdraw the application.
A couple of months ago, you had approved that
Yes.
car lot.
And now they don't want to do it?
Apparently, it's been too expensive for the applicant to continue.
So it goes away.
Yes.
This
So
is
you-
across from.
If you so approve, you would rescind that.
The diner, okay,
The diner.
yeah, that's right, yeah.
The Pegasus, yeah.
Woodland Cafe?
Put the
Yes,
grinds
exactly.
down and everything?
Mm.
What's that?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What's that?
They put the asphalt regrinds down and everything.
Oh, they do that?
Yeah, I'm surprised. That's too bad.
So do we have to vote to accept the withdrawal?
Yes.
Do I
So
have?
Make a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Do you want to mention this at all about this general bylaws about
Okay.
to the board?
I think everybody- So, general planning board discussion. We have, coming up on the 18th, an open public hearing, because of a petition to, I'll read the Article 2, citizens petition prohibiting non-medical marijuana, general bylaw, to see if the town will vote to amend the town general bylaw by adding a new chapter and section that would provide as follows, and further to amend the table of contents to add said chapter and section. The issue with this is that I don't think we can change a general bylaw. I think we can do only the zoning.
Well, yeah, the planning board doesn't have jurisdiction on general bylaws.
Okay.
And I'm not sure exactly, what this is intended to accomplish, because we have a zoning bylaw in place. There's an article to rescind that bylaw that was passed by town meeting, and this is just a general bylaw that prohibits marijuana establishments, but I'm not sure what effect it would have.
In the general, I don't know if that goes, that's more of a selectmen's.
Well, it's a simple majority vote at town meeting, then if it's passed, it becomes a town bylaw, but I don't know what effect it would have.
Now, if we're prohibiting marijuana, non-medical
Non-medical.
marijuana, okay.
Well, non-medical. Is that
I see.
legal with the new
I was
laws,
just
or
gonna ask
is
that.
it, does it
I don't
have to be
think it is,
zoned?
but
I think that's
I
been ruled
think that the
before.
attorney will have to look at the overall general of restriction. We just have to do a little more research on this, but this is what was submitted.
Yeah, I don't think the planning board needs to be
There is,
concerned about it.
there is two articles. There's, the first article is to rescind. So coming up for our meeting next week, I just wanted everybody to kind of to do their research, and so I wanted to just go over a couple of things, to be as prepared as possible for next week. We want to be able to answer a lot of questions and know what
This is coming before us next week?
So next
Planning
week,
board.
yeah, so coming in.
For a general
No.
bylaw?
No.
Okay.
What's coming before you is the public hearing on the zoning amendment to rescind
Okay,
the bylaw that was
bylaw.
adopted at town
okay.
meeting.
So,
But if we do that, can't marijuana go anywhere?
possibly, but, so we want to get all the facts straight, and I did take a couple days off from work to dive into this stuff very deep. And so and thank you, Jane, for doing so much work and digging out old things for me constantly. Poor Jane, I think she's sick of seeing my face. I dug up all the different versions of the zoning change that we were going through. And I was actually pretty surprised at the changes from the first time we looked at it, the 9th to the 10th, all the way to the 18th. There are significant changes. Now, do I have a packet with these? That I can give everybody, yeah. So, this is the final one.
That's the final one.
We can pass this out.
I'll get it, I'll go before. All right.
So, what I have
That's final.
is, and I have the first version dated the 9th. And what it pretty much says is, it's what I honestly thought we were approving at the town meeting. So it says, and I'm just gonna go over some of the basics. You guys can read up on this, and I can give you everybody copies. So the first version says, the planning board shall not approve a special permit for more than 3 marijuana establishments, period. And so what that did is, what I believed we were doing at the town meeting, was that we limited the total amount of establishments. That means retail, or medical, or cultivator, or shipping, or every definition, and there's a huge definition on what a
Right.
marijuana establishment is in here.
And didn't town meeting then reduce it to 2?
We reduced it to.
I thought
So
so.
I thought, at the end of the town meeting, we did what my goal was as the chair, and what I thought our board's goal was to say, all right, we have the max, the state says we have to do a percentage of liquor licenses, and we're gonna allow the minimum and keep it, because because of the interpretation of the bylaw, I thought we were doing the right thing. So, now I'm going at all the different versions, so, and then I go to version 2, and it changes from that 3 total, and I'm talking before we went to town meeting, so 3 total. It changes now on the next date, which is the 10th on here, that we went to 3 retail, and then it looks like unlimited cultivating. And then we added also that a marijuana indoor cultivator is allowed on a parcel of 20 acres. We added that, it didn't have anything here, and then we just added that, and so there's a small change. We added that the marijuana cultivation facility should be set back 100 feet from a property line, and we added that there needs to be 1,000 feet of space between any other marijuana facility or adult type use facilities. And then we get to the 3rd one, and it changes now to 3 medical, and then 3 retail, making 6. So originally, remember, we said 3. So now we're at 6, and then we go to unlimited cultivating by special permit. So pretty much anybody who is in an agricultural zoned area in Charlton, they have 10 acres and the ability to get a permit. And
As long as they have 10 acus.
And then it changed to 10 acres on this one. I have to say that I
The first one we
watched
had was
every
12.
single one of our planning board meetings, and I do talk about critiquing yourself in every word that you say, but we never discussed any of this.
I was just gonna say that, I don't ever recall stating
And
an
believe
acreage.
me, I watched every single meeting multiple times, so here's me, I'm going, all my CCD moms, because I teach CCD, and my soccer moms and my softball moms, I'm going, because we're gonna protect the town, everybody show up for a town meeting. And I'm like, this is good for our town, but now, I'm wrong. I think what we did, is it looks like we opened up our town to now 4, but when we were pushing this, six selling places.
Correct.
And unlimited growing places. This is what we have now.
Now, how did town meeting, when they said then 2, so everyone voted, and they said, okay, we're gonna cap it to, period, does our 10 acre plus circumvent that?
Going back to the town meeting,
Yes.
I wonder, and this is my odd interpretation, remember during the wording, it says let's cap it at 2.
Right.
When we capped it at 2, did we cap retail and medical, or did we cap them in total? Because this is the one thing that might have
How
fixed
was it
everything.
written? Yeah.
Because
It says
The
in
town
section B, section 5.20,
Which is just,
B and C,
Right.
by replacing the words 3 with the words 2.
So
So
if
it's
we,
retail.
but I don't,
C.
but I don't,
Yeah.
if you listen when Karen speaks at town meeting, she is under the impression,
Correct.
and all of us are under the impression that we just said 2 total
Total.
marijuana
Right.
facilities and
Period,
storage.
period, and yes.
And I know we have all the legal stuff that getting involved and maybe, but I think the true heart of this was missed. It was
Yes.
missed by our board.
Yes.
I think we had a lot of things going on. We had, we were fighting for the salary for the planning board. And again, my mission going into that meeting was to get our salary back because we need a planner.
Correct.
We had all the 508 stuff going on. We had multiple, we were meeting till 11 o'clock at night. We're adding more meetings. We're, so.
lost the chairman.
Lost the chairman in the middle
Right,
of
and our
that.
chairman, right, resigned, and you guys got lucky me. So,
But no, I agree, Patsy. I don't recall ever saying 10 acres plus, you can grow whatever you want, and then we're gonna go 3 plus 3, 2 plus 2. We thought we were saying 2 and doing right by the town.
I thought 3 in total.
Correct.
Because we had to, and then after the fact, we found, I had found out that we were rounding up to 3,
Correct.
let's go with 2.
Right.
So I made it well known to everybody that, we
Correct.
could go to 2, so that was changed. And the heart of it was misunderstood.
I agree.
We were incorrect. Now,
What do we do now?
That's
How-
because though, and I'll go along with what everybody else here feels, and I believe at the town meeting, I even asked you.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yes.
And the only thing I ever saw was the original one marked draft. that was given to the planning board. This one, this one, this one, and then the final one. I never saw any of those. So when we went into town, although I will say in the warrant, the one that is marked the annual town meeting, that's what it did appear in the warrant, but that, even that was different. That shows the difference between the 20 acres down to the 10 acres, and that even added another part to here, the third party marijuana
Right.
transporter.
I just don't wanna look like,
A lot of got thrown in there that
Correct.
we never saw.
No.
It didn't stem, when you kept saying we, it wasn't the planning board that made all these
A lot of those
changes.
changes were made by council, town council, to
Okay.
make sure that we conform to the state law.
it seems as though, and do I wanna say this out loud? I feel like we paved the way for VGG to come in, but, and I can say it wasn't intentional at all, because that's the last thing, I don't wanna
Yeah,
pave the way for anybody, I
don't
want to
think-
do
I don't think
everything.
that's the case at all. I think VGG was within the guidelines of our original, if you look at the original plan, VGG would have
They were a
fallen
second,
underneath that, underneath
right.
the draft. They would have been the second,
And they would have
They had
blocked
plenty of
it off.
acreage,
Yeah,
they had plenty
exactly.
of things, so I don't agree that these changes help them.
Well, I don't know,
It's
so
gonna
the-
help everybody else.
The
After that.
change that we, can now allow, the state law says that they need to be 1,000 feet apart. Each 100,000 acre permit has to be 1,000.
Yep.
We added that, because knowing that how big they are, somehow we added that we could, by special permit, allow them to be closer. That's a little, I mean, that's what really threw me over the top when I was reading this. I said, really? To say.
Now, are you talking about different facilities, or are you talking about the greenhouse?
No, because each state permit needs, every 100,000 square feet requires its own individual permit. And on the last
Okay.
version, we added, unless a special, so marijuana establishments shall be a minimum of 1,000 feet from an adult use specified in blah, 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 or other marijuana establishment. Unless a special, and then we added on the last version, unless a special permit has been granted to allow the collocation of the two types of marijuana establishments at a single location. So by doing that, we said, okay, instead of, I mean, I guess when you're thinking about it, should they do 100,000 square foot pods, or they should put it together? But it kind of allows a huge facility to come in versus it's much cheaper to just do a small 100,000 square foot facility. So, this is what I want you guys to go home and study and kind of figure out what kind of happened. I just wanted to flag what I've been doing my research on. Number two, I've been calling everybody for information, and I actually called a grower, a facility that builds marijuana growing containers in Colorado. Hi, I'm from Charlton, Massachusetts, and just because I've been doing so much research, and I'm trying to understand our original zoning and how it works, and I think the reason why we're open to everything, why our original translation of why we've opened our town, we're unprotected, is the definition of a greenhouse in our bylaw. And my job is not to question our ZEO's interpretation of any bylaw, and as far as, this letter says that he worked on that interpretation with attorneys, so. However, when I look at the bylaw, it looks like we allow greenhouses in agricultural areas.
Makes sense.
But there's a clear definition of a greenhouse is much different than a warehouse. And I said, what's different? Is there a difference between if I grow something in a warehouse, does it make it a greenhouse? And they said, absolutely not, because a greenhouse uses natural light. And a warehouse is insulated like crazily, so they have complete control of the environment.
But, and then under the new greenhouses, under the new fancy, if you will, modern day greenhouses, aren't they insulated? Because yes, they are
Yes,
greenhouses.
they're even a regular insulated, the main change is the use of natural sunlight. versus LED or halide lamps.
What about
So
solar? Because they said they're going to bring it, they're going to go buy solar.
It
That's
doesn't,
natural
the
solar.
definition,
Solar
you
to
can,
generate electricity. or-
if you use solar to generate electricity to power your warehouse, it doesn't change the definition to a greenhouse.
So I guess my question becomes, and I'm not arguing, it's a discussion. Is it possible that that definition is older than the new versions of the greenhouses? Because
This was a call made a couple of days ago too. I mean, so, I'm just, and again, this is just me doing
Absolutely.
I'm an auditor by real life. And now I'm going, I wanna know everything I know to understand why our town is doing what we're doing and
I wanna make sure we're
all
right.
these details. And I definitely wanna make sure we're right and we know all the facts. And whatever decision is made, that all the facts are out there and as transparent as possible. So that's another fact. I have a list of local towns that have voted the same way we voted. And they all currently have a moratorium. Now, this is Grafton, Dudley, East Brookfield, West Boylston, New Braintree, Sturbridge, Douglas, Webster, Spencer, Northbridge, Paxton, Millbury, Sutton, and even Freetown, who has a signed project, like a signed agreement with BGG, passed a moratorium too. Just interesting facts, just to, again, to think about what we're doing. Another interesting fact that I decided that I was gonna read the master plan, because, you know, so much time on my hands.
So remember, VGG came in before the town meeting, and we were led to believe that the agreement had already been signed with VGG at that point.
Right, there's a lot of,
Well,
I mean.
it was agreed on by that point, but it was never signed.
So the master plan says
And I
that
didn't know about that.
85% of our town is zoned agricultural. It makes sense, because when I was a kid, there was cows everywhere. But it also says that of that, only less than, and this is 2008, so less than 7% of that agricultural land is actually used for agricultural, they're all houses.
Correct.
So we, knowing this fact now, we've allowed people to grow marijuana in pretty much residential areas in our town, because even though we have 85% agricultural, only back in 2008, less than 7% was actually being used as farms. So pretty much we're all houses, we're houses everywhere.
It's houses with a lot of land is what it is.
With chunks of land. So, I mean, this is a discussion for another day, as we really need to start looking at, like, these percentages are, we need to probably rezone some of these areas to protect them, because they're residential and
But
not.
I guess, one question I have is, we're talking about cultivation of marijuana. Why is that different than growing other kinds of crops? If this
Because
was-
defined
if
by-
this was corn or tomatoes.
Because it was
it's
defined by the
still-
state that way.
But it's still cultivation, and it's still going to happen in greenhouses.
Correct.
So from a land use perspective, which is what zoning is all about, are the impacts greater from cultivating marijuana in greenhouses than cultivating corn or some other crop in greenhouses?
Well, for some reason, the state thinks
A
so.
greenhouse or manufacturing facility, if you look at the plans for that, I question whether it is a greenhouse. It's a steel building, it's fully enclosed, it has commercial lights. It's more of a warehouse or commercial building
Right,
than it is.
right, so if
So
they-
a farm is, you've got a country road, you've got maybe a little parking lot for farm equipment, you're bringing your stuff to the market, or you've got a farm stand, people are
Sure.
coming to you. It isn't a big, huge building with asphalt parking, lighting, everything else that goes along with a big manufacturing facility. It really is, other than what's inside of it, it's a manufacturing facility.
So, and the state clearly defines marijuana is not a crop. I mean, if you can understand my
Well, that's-
interpretation.
it's-
So marijuana is
it's a
not
specific-
It's not
considered,
agriculture.
is not considered an agricultural crop.
No, that
Hemp,
is- it's-
hemp is, but marijuana isn't, and there's a difference between, because you don't get high on hemp.
Well, can I make a distinction here? The state law where this is written is in the zoning act. And in section 3, it provides exemptions from regulation for certain kinds of activities. So by inserting this language that marijuana is not considered agriculture, it's for purposes of the zoning exemption. Obviously, it's still cultivation, it's still agriculture, you're still growing a crop, but it doesn't enjoy that broad protection that other kinds of agriculture has. So it's still agriculture, but it's just not agriculture for purposes of the zoning.
And I assume they're doing that just to